Doing the same thing, special reunification.
Hello and good evening, everybody. It is with great pleasure and privilege that I sit before you on this beautiful Tuesday, June 26th. The time is now 6:30, and I call this meeting to order. We'll start with our invocation by Pastor Matthew Wojcik and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Mr. Ron Burke.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, God, we love you so much. God, we're so grateful for the opportunity we have to be here today, Lord. We're grateful for the life that you've given us and the strength that you've given us and the health. God, I pray that you guide our city leaders as they make decisions for our city. God, I pray that they make them with the best intentions, Lord, and I pray that you give them wisdom and discernment. God, I pray that you bless all the people of our city of Alice, Lord. I pray that you bless them with health and with work and with prosperity, Lord. I pray that you bless this city. And I pray that you guide us all closer to you, Lord, and closer to each other. Help us to be a city that builds each other up and serves one another and shows the love of God to the people around us. God, we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go on to agenda item number 2, citizen comments and public announcements. And it looks like we do not have citizen comments, so I'll take public announcements. Ms. Carrasco, do you have any?
Not at this time.
Mr. Burke?
No.
No. Mr. Chris?
No.
Mr. Molina?
No.
Okay. I would like to extend a big thank you to city employees for doing an amazing job and for communicating with me. Thank you, Renee, long distance. And Mr. Michael, thank you so much. And city employees who were out there during the flood and the heavy rains and all of those that some of our local residents had to endure. I thank you all for being fast and speedy all the way from the top floor all the way down to our streets. It was really, I got nothing but compliments and complaints on how efficient it worked, and so many thank yous because of the drainage project that you came right in, Mr. Esparza, and tackled immediately. Thank you for listening.
Yes.
I appreciate that. Yes, thank you. Thank you to all of you. Agenda item number 3. Here's status report from City Manager concerning 1 award of grant funds in the amount of $88,500 from the Criminal Justice Division of the Texas Governor's Office to be used for transition to the National Incident-Based Reporting System, and 2 current rainfall and other related relevant items.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just an informational item that we did receive a grant in the amount of $88,500. If you guys recall, back on March the 27th, you guys authorized us to go out for the NIBRS grant, and that's to have compliance software and update our software on the police department side, and we were awarded the grant. In July, we're going to begin the procurement process to find a vendor for that. And I want to thank Barbara, Anita, Jim, Lieutenant Satuche, and Leo, who worked real hard in getting this grant together. The grant will start in September, so we're looking good there. On piggybacking off what you talked about, Mayor, in last week, yeah, the total amount of rain we had 10.4 inches on Tuesday. It's a lot of severe rain event. And in 72 hours, we had a total of 12.16 inches of rain. And so, yeah, it was trying, but I think what the timing of the cleanup of the Pintas Creek was perfect. We were, as we had the contractor mulch, knock down the trees and clean it, we had talked with Victor, is like, well, eventually there'll be a rain and it's going to get all the debris off and we'll pick it up. And sure enough, not but 4 or 5 days later, here comes rain. And so Victor Sines and his crew were there before 7 in the morning at each entrance. And this is the one that was really an issue, is the Pintas Creek, which runs, it's a San Fernando, it feeds into the San Fernando Creek. And so on Woodlawn, there's an entrance, and then it goes on to Sunset, and then on 44. And so we had the brush picking up the debris through there so it wouldn't clog, and that water was running through there. it got pretty high, but it was running pretty fast. So the cleanup did really well, and Victor really worked hard on all that. It was nice to see everybody working together. Victor worked real well. Had Robert get on the phone. They had crews out there where the streets were getting high. They were in contact with Rex Ramon, the police chief, and his crew. Patrick Thomas, our fire chief, his guys were ready as well. They had Josh Flotis, had his guys from Parks assisting in areas with where there was some potential flooding. We had a few street closures, and it's just temporary because the rain came down so hard. And then we also had Smiley Valverde and Demetrio Duarte working on the wastewater side, making sure that keeping track of where our sewer plants were, because there's water that gets into the system from heavy rains. We had very minor flooding, but there was still flooding and in some areas, and so the amount of rain and the type of rain it was and how quick it fell. And the damage that we had to even the library had some flooding, and some of the streets we were able to, and it is considered a disaster area as well. So thank you, Mayor, for doing that for us. We joined with Jim Wells County in that as well. We're not on the governor's list, so we're hoping to be. And so we meet the damage threshold for the entire county, which is about $147,000. And if the governor puts us on his list, we'll be able to have to get reimbursed for some of the damage that was done, including some of the cleanup we did on Pintas Creek. Our staff handled it professionally and expediently, and they did a really super job with all that. And thank you for being available. Also,
Yes, sir.
it was a big help. Also, I want to let the public know that we did begin our vector control mosquito spraying. We tried to start on Monday, but it rained again, and we can't really do that while it's raining. You got to be careful with high winds and things of that sort. So it takes several days to go throughout the whole city. The process is to start on the north end and the south end with both trucks, go through alleys when we're able to, and go through streets as well. Victor's, of course, has been doing that for a long time, so he has a process down. So we'll be, hopefully by the end of this week, we'll have the whole city taken care of with vector control. And, the mosquitoes are out there with this rain. You go outside and you get hit with them pretty hard. I do want to note that our administrative staff, Diana Lopez and Renee Marshall and Jim Hicks, he's back there too. Pat Martinez worked real hard in getting the everything we need to do to get the disaster declaration ready to go, including setting up a phone line for people that had damage. And I know that was put on Facebook and on Channel 5. So people that have damage, there's a number that they can call, and they can find that number, and that way we'll keep track of the damage that was done. But if all goes well, we'll be able to get reimbursed by FEMA for some of those expenses. That's all I have for that agenda.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Esparza. Agenda item number 4, consider and act upon a resolution supporting the Standard Response Protocol and the Standard Reunification Method, multi-hazard-based response protocol for critical incidents for school personnel, school districts and other schools, the Boys and Girls Club, youth organizations, and public buildings to follow unified and consistent communications in emergency response situations.
Thank you, Mayor. This item was placed on the agenda by Councilman Ron Burke. Recently, we had the city hosted a small meeting about the Standard Response Protocol and the Standard Reunification Method. That meeting included Councilman Ron Burke, Dr. Carl Scarborough, the new superintendent at Dallas Independent School District, myself, our emergency management coordinator, and our fire chief, Patrick Thomas. Our county judge, Sheriff Danny Bueno, County Commissioner Ventura Garcia, Jose Pineda with Governor Filemon Vela's office was there. Members of our police department, David Valadez was there, and some other police officers, and the health and safety coordinator with the Diocese of Corpus Christi, April Esparza. April has been on an awareness campaign based on Governor Abbott's safety action plan, which includes the methods and protocols that April and Patrick are going to speak about here in just a second. So we'll hand it to them.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Council. I'm going to go ahead and let April start with her little part of it, and then I'll elaborate more on it if you need more elaboration on it.
Good evening. I'd like to thank all of you for your consideration in this resolution tonight. I'm here on behalf of the Diocese of Corpus Christi Catholic Schools. We have 17 Catholic schools, 2 of which are in Alice, Texas. And schools are called to do an ongoing, continuous review of our emergency and safety plans. Certainly to be in accordance with best practices, modern day best practices. In the spring of this past year, we identified the Standard Reunification Method, the SRM, and the Standard Response Protocol, the SRP, as best practices in school safety. In school safety. It has been adopted by school districts, emergency response agencies, and communities across the country, and in the U.S. and in Canada. The Standard Reunification Method is basically an organized method for reunifying students with parents after an emergency in a school situation. One of the most difficult things to do, any school will tell you that's been through that process. Provides structure and organization and a cooperative approach, coordinated effort between all emergency agencies and the school district. The Standard Response Protocol being a crisis alert system for clear, concise communication between all stakeholders, students, staff, parents, emergency response agencies, and the community as a whole. Basically simplifying the language so everyone knows and we're all on the same page, and everyone can more effectively respond, if you will. So in our adoption of these protocols, part of that, our commitment to hardwiring those in our schools is to advocate for widespread use in the communities in which our schools are located. The SRP also has since been initially started in schools, has since been expanded to institutes of higher education, businesses, and communities as a whole. So with that, I'd like to offer to Mr. Thomas an opportunity to tell you how that impacts the community of Alice.
Thank you, April. So one of our roles as one of my roles as an emergency management coordinator, as an interim fire chief, is to work with our community, work with our schools and our businesses, and we've been doing that. This program in particular is fairly, it's not new, but it's new to us. This is something that we would like to advocate for, not just our schools, but our businesses as well. It standardizes terminology and it standardizes responses to different types of situations. And I know one of the hot topics right now is the active shooters and the schools and things like that have been happening. But this program isn't just specifically for active shooters. This can be a response to any type of an emergency, and I feel very strongly that this is something. This is a program that we need in our community, and we need to be a resource for our community. So that's the purpose of us being here tonight. We want for you guys to make it official that we're going to be here for our residents and for our community, and our schools and our businesses. We have our police department has programs that we're offering, and here pretty soon our fire department will have some programs that we're working with our police department, and they're all going to work hand in hand. Some of the programs like CRAZE that our police officers have been training our citizens in work hand in hand with this program. All these programs were developed this particular program was developed by the I Love You Guys Foundation. That particular foundation was started by a gentleman whose daughter was involved in a hostage situation. And unfortunately, she didn't make it through, but he devoted his life to creating a program to better respond to these types of events, and that's where it developed from. Then from there, Texas State University has taken it and created a Texas edition of that, which is what you guys are looking at, or what you guys have before you in your packets. Any questions on the program or how we're here?
One point to make, that I Love You Guys Foundation, her last text to them was "I love you guys," and that's why he's started that name for that foundation. And of course she got killed after that.
Council, Mr. Molina, any questions?
Questions?
Mr. Crisp?
Yeah, just a couple questions, and it's not really so much, I mean, from reading this, I think it's a great program. I thank you for bringing it forward. Just for clarifications, for simplicity's sake, it really comes down to just some terminology as far as people are concerned, right? So can you give an example of how simple it actually is when it comes to citizens responding to this and knowing that, okay, if this is said or this is what is expressed, this is what you do?
Yes, so that's the whole purpose of this program, is to standardize the response and the terminology. So lockdown for every business or every school can mean different things. What this program does is it kind of creates a standard definition of what a lockdown is, or a lockout, or a evacuate, or a shelter in place, what those definitions are. That's basically what this program does. It standardizes that, so that law enforcement, fire, EMS, or anybody that's responding, even parents, understand when the school says that they're under lockout, it means a specific thing. So there's clear definitions on what those different types of terms mean, and what the response is going to be for those terms.
And also, what helps is these protocols and methods, and the foundation has informational pieces. So, and if you look in your packet, there's a parent handout, or there's a handout if you're in business, like for us at City Hall, as we get started with this program, as far as the SRP Biz, then, employees will know what these means, and they'll have a handout. So, in general, parents will know, the public will know by being able to have something consistent and simple. So if there is a lockdown, everybody will know exactly what that means. And so including, it's not going to be the definition that somebody created here and there and here and there, different school, different business, and those kind of things. Here it's going to be unified. And that's what helps with everybody understanding what's taking place as well.
It also helps us to coordinate with the local schools or businesses on the emergency management side. Our responses to their definition of a lockout or a lockdown or whatever the case may be. We know exactly what it means and what we need to be doing. One of the key components of this that I really like is the education side of it. So there's one. Having a plan and having it sit on a shelf is good, but it's not the best practice. The best practice is to actually use the plan. And so this program actually has drills and things that we're going to be committed to working with our schools and our businesses to make sure that they don't just have the plan, but they know how to use the plan, and it works in coordination with the local emergency responders.
Very good. Mr. Crisp, any other questions?
No, that's perfect, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Burke?
And Patrick, you will be reaching, as this progresses, you'll be reaching out to the business community and other agencies.
Yes, so initially we've started out with the schools. We've met with every school, with the exception of the Alice Christian School, which is on our list. We will get to them. We are going to sit down with them and meet with them and help them through this process as well. But yes, eventually we'll get to the businesses. We're also, and here pretty quickly, we're going to start out with and you can ask the city manager to elaborate more, but we're not just going to advocate the use of it, but our plan is to actually use it ourselves as a city, because we're initially we're a business as well. We run an operation, a day-to-day operation, and so we need plans as well. We need to be prepared, and so that's where we're going to start with this. We're going to start with City Hall and with all of our businesses or our facilities, and then from there we're going to help advocate and educate and get this out to everybody in our community, because we want everybody to be prepared.
And as we start our training, we will have this open to the public, and we will have on Channel 5, or Channel 1300 actually, and on Facebook, and we'll get information out. So if people want to attend, business owners or supervisors or somebody that says, this may be good for our business too, they'll be welcome to attend. And so Yolanda, Bueno is going to take a big part in helping us with the education side as well. So we have commitment from city employees that want to make our place safer and want us to be safe and want us to have the same communication, be able to train other places also. So that'll get started here pretty quick.
Very good. Mr. Burke, any other questions
No.
or comments? Ms. Carrasco, any questions? Okay, thank you, Patrick. I don't have questions. This is awesome. I thank you so much for doing such a fabulous job. As emergency management director, people think hurricane, they think tornado, and that was one of my stresses when searching for the perfect person, which Patrick has proved himself to be a perfect person, that it's not just weather. We have to look at emergencies in all kind of situations, and what could happen in schools or businesses alike may not even have anything to do with weather, but it's an emergency. So thank you so much. I really, this is awesome. Thank
The
you.
Mayor, may I add?
Absolutely.
Quickly, very quickly. As a educator and as a community leader, it was good to see so many people coming together to advocate for this and to get it organized. And I'm very proud, and I urge, in the interest of public safety for our kids and the greater community, that we will be at the forefront of pushing this statewide and be a leader for it.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Okay, council, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I move for the adoption of the resolution. Let's see, I want to make sure. Okay, resolution supporting the standard response protocol and the standard reunification method, multi-hazard based response protocol for critical incidents for school personnel, school districts, and other schools, the Boys and Girls Club, youth organization, and public meetings, buildings, to follow unified and consistent communication to emergency response situations.
Very good. Can I get a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion stands as stated. Thank you, council.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Hey, Patrick.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay. Agenda item number 5, consider and act upon a resolution of the City Council of the City of Alice, Texas on budget allocation of hotel occupancy tax, hot funds from the Hotel Occupancy Tax Reserve for permissible uses to the Calaveras Motorcycle Club for their 2018 rally in accordance with City Ordinance number 2058.
Mayor, this was sent to us by the Chamber/CVB. This is the same function that was held last year, so they're asking for the same that they did last year. I think we have Mr. Eddie Pena
Yes, sir.
here and
John Bozier.
John Bozier here to speak on this agenda item.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for having us here to start with. As y'all know, we have our Calaveras Twin Cam Rally, 6th annual, coming up July 20th and 21st. We've tried to make it bigger and better every year, try to put Alice in the map for us. We've got lots of responses of people that are going to be coming over here. The reason that we're here is to see if you guys can kind of help us out with the funds like you have in the past couple of years. Right now, our budget, I think, was like 82,200 is where we're at right now. My guys are having to work extremely hard to try to get these funds up together to make this happen. We are a little bit smaller chapter now. I am the president of the Calaveras here in Alice for the Alice chapter, and now it's even harder for us to get the funds together, but we're getting there slowly to get this done. And like I said, would like to see if you guys would please come aboard with us and sponsor us on this rally.
And Mayor, the one thing that we were lacking today, which Mr. Pena got to us, was the certificate of liability insurance. The only, if you guys want to approve it, the only change that I had sent Juan an email on the change, and it shouldn't be difficult to do, but on the additional insured to list the City of Alice. It has Jim Wells County Fairgrounds, Alice Chamber of Commerce, but a motion to include as long as we're listed as a additional insured, which you get to the company just to redo it.
I don't think it should be a problem.
Right, yeah.
It's just that he went by what we had, I think, 2 years ago, actually.
Okay.
We were trying to get the rain-out insurance. Well, unfortunately, last year we got rained out and $25,000 went out the door, you know, Signo and Whiskey D. Then plus all the people that weren't able to come in because of the rain, so.
Okay, council, are there any questions? Ms. Carrasco?
No, I think mostly what I was answered, and I spoke to Mr. Bozier also. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Burke?
Yes, sir. You are a 501c3. You have
Yes,
your
sir.
letter of
I
determination.
do have a copy of that here.
Yes, sir. And you have an agent who handles that, an attorney that
Yes,
I know
sir.
that represents you, yes.
Yes, there's a copy of it.
Yeah, and with the state, they are in good standing as far as our franchise tax is concerned as well.
Any other questions, Mr. Burke?
No, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Crisp?
Last year you brought in, about how many were ticket sales? Was it, it was a little over, you said you brought in over 3,000 people into town.
Probably over 3,000 people. We're hoping to do 4,000 plus this year, if not more, hopefully.
Those are,
We're-
those seem like realistic numbers. I like those. I
Yeah,
like those
we-
numbers
we,
opposed to
uh,
some of the ones that have been presented by other groups in the past, so.
I mean, we have helped veterans organizations throughout the past 5 years. This year, we're gonna be helping the American Legion, and we are gonna change it a little bit and help out the West Side Youth Center this year. Hopefully, it turns out good. We don't get no rain, and we're able to do a little bit better than we did last year to help out. We still helped out, I think, what was the VFW, I think, and them, I think we helped them out $3,000 or $4,000 apiece. We're hoping to shoot for 5 or 6 or better if it if it was better, but unfortunately the rain kind of put a damper on everything.
Any other questions, Mr. Crisp? Mr. Molina?
I have no questions.
Okay. And I have to say that this event really did what it's supposed to do for these funds. I will speak on your behalf that unlike some other events that do tap into this fund, you guys are the example of what it should do, what these funds should do, because you could drive by the hotels and you saw motorcycles for miles.
Yeah,
And
that was-
so it was very obvious that it was, and I believe y'all had 82% capacity of the hotel.
I believe it's
Or
up-
85%, I believe.
Yeah, something like that. So actually, it's what Juan was telling us
Yeah.
today.
And y'all could have probably had more, but the Rotary was in town that same night, so they probably took that other,
Yes.
so people didn't have room. So I can attest to
That-
that you guys did it correctly,
They-
and I
they were
appreciate
sold-
that.
They were sold out.
Yes.
Because we had other people trying to
That's
find
right.
rooms and couldn't find them, but they just didn't have any more.
Absolutely. So yes, this is a perfect example of what things like this should do for this fund, because basically you reimburse what you took by heads and beds. So I appreciate it done correctly. And it was a great show. I went to one of the nights and it was great. We can't do anything about the rain.
Yeah.
But it really, I know that
Yeah.
it would have made double for
It
the
should be a
next 2
good one
days.
this year too. The bands are good.
But
Bands
even,
are good.
even during the day, that night that it rained, I mean,
People were out there.
people
yeah,
were
there
out
was-
there.
Yeah, there was a lot of
We
people
spent
out
both
there.
days out there, and we left with my son right before
Yeah,
it started raining. so-
Unfortunately, this year, the roping is it's not happening there. I don't know if they're trying to change it to another arena, because of the bleachers are not in good shape and they're not gonna be able to get them fixed on time. But, we're still gonna get that done, whether it's that day of the rally or another day that they'll try to book it to get that done.
Very good.
Very good.
Very good. Thank you, Eddie. I do request one other thing from the group, if awarded, that your advertisement shows City of Alice
course.
somewhere on there, because it currently doesn't, and that is one of the rules for the funds.
Yes, of course.
So that we can show that it is going
And
to.
actually, that's what they're working on right now.
Awesome.
Actually,
Process
the
of the sponsors.
iHeart Radio in Corpus and
Very
92.1
good.
here. And we're looking right now into doing a commercial on Channel 3, which the bigger sponsors will be there, which it's LNF's, actually LNF's the biggest sponsor right now. City of Alice and Harley Davidson, all the big sponsors would be, if they get to do it and finish it, it'll be floaters on the commercial.
Very
And
good.
of course, they will be on the radio also.
Very good. Thank you. And I appreciate the hard work. I know it's a lot of work.
Thanks. It's
Team
a lot
effort,
of hard
right?
work. Yeah,
It's
team
big.
effort.
I
The guys,
appreciate
I'm proud of them. They're busting their butts to get this
Yeah,
done.
yeah. Thank you, gentlemen. Council, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mayor, I make a motion to allow for the budget allocation of hotel occupancy tax, also known as hot funds, from the hotel occupancy tax reserve for the permissible use to the Calaveras Motorcycle Club for the 2018 rally in the amount of $8,200 with the
1,800.
with the
With the contingency. upon this-
contingency that we are added to the additionally insured.
Very good. Can I get a second, Council?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Okay. All right, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you very
Looking
much.
forward to it. Thank you.
City,
Bye-bye.
Okay, agenda item number 6, discuss, consider, and act upon for fiscal year 2019 or later, the City of Alice agreement with the Chamber of Commerce and Convention and Visitors Bureau with respect to return of the management and supervision of programs and fiduciary duties funded by the hotel occupancy tax to the City of Alice. And since I put this on the agenda, I would like to speak on it and
Do you want
give-
to open both up since they kind of go
Sure,
together?
that would be perfect. Thank you, Mr. Esparza. Agenda item number 7, consider and act upon for fiscal year 2019 or later, changes to the City of Alice Ordinance Number 2058, regulating the use and administration of hotel occupancy tax funds and/or development and adoption of local hotel occupancy tax use guidelines. So, and we just got an additional, so I'll look at that in a little bit. I just want to remind council that the steps forward that we took with the baseball and kickball fields at our last meeting, it really showed that this council is about positive progress and is about doing things slightly different and looking for innovative ways to do things for the city. And we all know that that project will definitely promote economic growth for our town when we're able to do tournaments as such. We will see what these funds should do, is put heads in beds, just like this event that they put on. So at this time, I just kind of want to reevaluate the distribution of the hot funds and how we're doing it. We are stewards of money, and the citizens, when they put us in these chairs, they trust that whether they give us $2 to spend or $2 million, which is this big fund, they're trusting that we're doing and promoting it correctly in this case, because it's not so much a taxpayer fund, but we're still stewards to spend it correctly. So the purpose of the funds, in essence, are to promote Alice. And I'm sure we can all remember Alice is buena gente, do we not? We remember Alice is buena gente. That saying went on for years and years and years and years, and it still goes on, and it's still very popular today. And there's question as to who started it. There's question as to it was the bank, and then it was the city. I don't know who did it, but I do remember seeing billboards with Alice is buena gente, and everybody knew Alice was buena gente. So that takes me to billboards with these funds. I was hoping to see multi-use center billboards. I was hoping to see what Alice is, and I travel a lot, and I don't see that. These funds should promote our city. These funds should advertise who we are. Well, you can very easily, clearly drive right past and not know that we have a multi-use center and not know what we have. We have a golf course. We have 2 golf courses. We have an airport. If we don't scream about what we are, then we're just a little 19,000 small town that people say it's a bust because oil field left. That's the rumor. So at times like this, we should utilize this fund correctly in the sense to promote Alice and to show what we are and what we're made of. So back when the concern was actually brought to me by somebody on the chamber and by several local citizens that were concerned with the use of these funds. So back in February 8th of 2018, I did ask for records of the funds and how they're being used. I still have not received records on these funds. Then I asked for proof of advertising and where we're advertised. And it became a joke. Are these billboards in back roads? Because I've never seen them. Well, we do have one, or supposedly had one billboard, a digital billboard, at the Corpus Christi Airport. I flew out of there and in there twice. I stood there, went through the whole thing, never saw it. And besides, if you ask me if somebody flies into Corpus, chances are they probably won't come to our whatever's going on here because they've flown in there with plans. So I found that money was a little not used very carefully. So if we look at section 351.108, it's a tax code on hot funds, and it has to do with records. And we definitely should have these records accessible and how we're supposed to spend the money. Before making any expenditure, and this is 351.108B, a municipality or entity that spends revenue derived from the tax imposed under this chapter shall, which means must, before making an expenditure, specify in a list each scheduled activity, program, or event. I didn't have that, and haven't had that. And if we look further, Ordinance 2058, we should be getting on the 10th of May an audit. I did not see an audit made for 2017. Am I correct?
Right, we
There
don't
is
have
no audit. And of course, this year, hopefully we'll get one. But that is actually in the ordinance in 2058 that we should have that. And then we go on further to look at eligibility requirements, and that is in our packet for the funds. And that was quite disturbing because I did not have that information. So if you look at page 33, and we follow to page 33, and it's going to be behind the tab of number 7. Eligibility requirements for someone who receives this fund: they have to have been in operation for at least 1 calendar year and produce financial statements showing financial activity and financial position for the preceding 3 years. I know for a fact that funds have been distributed that do not fall under that category. Also, it has to, advertising and promotion, like I mentioned to them, has to say that it was supported by City of Alice hotel occupancy tax dollars. Every time I've seen anything like that, it's not there. So, we have everything else, but not City of Alice, which funds are used for that. And that is part of the tax code. The other one is application process, which is page 36. And I understand that that's a sample, but we should be following this with the application process. So the City of Alice, blank, which would be the chamber, which is who we're contracted with, accepts applications from organizations and businesses wishing to receive the funds, which is the first step. And then it goes on to say applicants will be required to present the project event to the Alice City Council at a meeting of the council. And that doesn't always happen, because it doesn't say at what point or what money, and all we're hearing is at the $10,000 mark they come and present to us. It doesn't state that in the process.
And Omer, just on the sample one, we had, Renee and I put together a sample on this particular one just to see if you guys wanted to follow something different. So this is not, the sample isn't in place.
Okay, so what was
This
our
is not a
process?
process at all.
Yeah,
So
Okay, I was like, I didn't even see that.
yeah.
we just don't have a process. Is that correct?
Well, the process for the hot fund starts at the chamber the chamber / EBB. And that's where the process starts. And so we were hoping I know you wanted this on the agenda, so clarification on how to better use them.
Correct.
And that's why we did this, to see if this was kind of a template as to how we may make it better for us. And in case we brought it in, we would have something in place also.
Very
We're
good.
just kind of getting a little bit prepared.
That's good.
Yeah.
And that's good. And these are things that I would have thought should have been in place. So we do not have anything in place.
We just have the ordinance that was
Just that
passed in
one ordinance.
2017. It's not even, I guess it's just a little over a year old.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, bringing this forward, Mayor, is a good thing to say. Are we happy with how this is working? It's been a year. Is it working properly? Do we want to change it? And so, valid discussion as to how we want to move forward on it. The requirements that we need to have before we spend that money.
Correct.
So yeah, I think that it's valid discussion that we need to have, because we administratively we need to know how to move forward with it.
Correct.
And we just need the direction as to how you guys want to proceed on that.
So at this point, I would ask council to think about, and this I've thought about it long and hard, and with input from concerned citizens on these funds, to think about possibly a special position in the city of Alice, monitored by a committee, and the committee could definitely have chamber members and city staff, because if anybody knows what the city needs and could benefit from this tax code, would be city staff. Also, this position, I would see somebody with a marketing experience. We know that social media is not going anywhere, and this person could possibly use social media to promote Alice and do the marketing with the use of internet and all of that good stuff. This person could also be a salesperson that could actually sell Alice. The sole focus of promoting Alice, including tourism and encouraging hotel stays, this would make that fund grow if we actually did it correctly. And we would be able to pay this person with the hot fund money. So that is covered in the tax code. So basically, we would be replenishing and growing this fund by hiring somebody that can actually do the job and just focus on this job, and that's promoting Alice. I asked council to recall concerns that we've had in the past meetings. This council has had concerns with certain staff taking on too much and not being able to do jobs efficiently because they do too much. Well, this is one that I think this position should be special and should be solely for the promotion of Alice. We know that our community development director, he wears many hats, and one of them is social media. So he has all of these things to do in addition to take care of our sale to the public. So anybody looking for Alice, we have one person taking care of all of that in addition to that. So that would help him to alleviate that from him. So, to me, this position would be it's funded. It's a funded position, and I think it would make sense to have them housed under our roof, where we can make sure that we're dotting our T's and crossing our I's. There's a lot of things in here that we're not doing, and this is in the actual tax code. And I know have time. We don't have time, but I've gone through and read it 3 times, and there's a lot of things we're not doing correctly. And as a mayor of the city of Alice, if we're dealing with government entity, which this fund does, I'm not comfortable with it. I'd rather it be managed under our roof, and that way we know that we are dotting our T's, or dotting our I's and crossing our T's. So I ask council to consider possibly for the fiscal year of 2019 to switch over and the management duties to a special person that would be totally for the purpose of this fund, to grow this fund and to do what it's supposed to do, sell Alice. Remind people, we're supposed to have a campaign slogan. We don't. There's a lot of things in this code that is not being done right now. Council have any questions, Mr. Molina?
Not right now.
Okay, Mr. Chris?
I do want to make a couple of statements real quick. I'm going to separate them out because I have an idea also in regards to your number 7, the hot funds itself. Going back to 6 and dealing with the CVB and the funding and the allocation and the management of that. This is a 17-year-old contract. I completely understand the need, and it's prudent. It's required of us to go back and sometimes evaluate these contracts and figure out exactly what needs to be done and how things are being handled. And right now I feel that more than anything that some of these issues can be handled by raising accountability. Exactly what you're saying. Right now, I've always kind of felt that the chamber itself, when dealing with our CVB, should, and I've mentioned it before, maybe come and give us at least a quarterly report as to what they're doing with our money, increase accountability, and what's being done with these funds. I think that would be a great thing to start, and I would really like to see staff evaluate this whole situation. I know this is something that isn't really necessarily completely new. This is something that has been on the table, has been on the city manager's table, has been on community development table, has been on just about everybody's table, because it flows across the board. You know what I mean? It's everybody's, everybody has a piece of the pie in our city when it comes to this thing. I'd love for staff to continue to work towards a viable solution, and it may be very well that we employ somebody in our office. But until staff comes forward and has a viable solution, I would like to maybe see if we can get the CVB executive director, Juan or whomever, to come over here and give us a little presentation, exactly what you've been asking for, to show us the accountability, to move us forward so that we can say, okay, do we need to find other alternatives, or do we need to hold them to the fire? That's what we need to move towards, figuring out what the best solution is by holding people accountable first and foremost, and then actually applying what a viable solution would be, whether it is complete remanagement or partial remanagement, or it's hard too, though, because we do have a chamber that just won 6 wards across the state. Okay, maybe they're not doing everything right. I'm not going to say they're not, but apparently they're doing something right. Maybe we utilize them for those purposes and so forth. Just work with what we have and come forward with the solution that works best for everybody. Now, I kind of want to, can I circle back to 7 once everybody goes across this board?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You good now?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Burke?
Yeah, I concur that there does need to be some tightening on accountability and on that. I've had some concerns myself. However, if anyone's asking me tonight to vote on a specific recommendation, I'm not prepared to do that. But I would add that I would like to study this further, have more conversation on it. Also, I would agree that I think there needs to be a very serious conversation with Chambers, CVSB board, in all fairness, to give them a chance to respond to some things and see what information they have. I think that would be in order, and not agree.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Burke. Ms. Carrasco?
I completely agree right now with what Mr. Burke has said and Mr. Chris. I do believe we need to hold off on any kind of decision, and there are processes in place. Do they need to be improved? Yes, most definitely. So it's not quite fair to say that there's no process. There are processes.
There is
in
one.
place.
Do we have it?
There's,
writing?
as far as applications and how that's vetted. Now, does it need to be improved? Yes, ma'am, it sure does. There, as far as individuals, I think this is a specialty, and it has to be someone that's well-versed in those funds, how those are allocated and used, and are well aware of what the statutes are, because it's serious if you're using you come in and ask for these funds and you don't use them for the purpose that statute was made. You can face penalties or even up to possibly 20. I'm not going to speculate, but yes, I do agree we need to review this, come back and revisit it, and but there are processes. It's not like we're not,
May not be the best process.
but we do need to improve upon them.
Yeah, for the hot funds to come to us, though, this is, the process is in place to send it to the chamber, but then it comes over here and we just kind of decide. So yeah, there's a process for that, but we need probably, if, it would be good to add something from our end. We're just going off the ordinance, but yeah, there is a process for the chamber.
And
part.
correct me
Yeah.
if I'm, this ordinance was put in place because to correct an issue that
Right.
arose from misappropriation.
Yeah.
And I think you were here when y'all passed that ordinance. So yes, definitely, it's in its infancy right now. We're not, so things as we grow, we learn and we tweak them and we make them better. So anyhow, I do.
Just to be clear, and the mayor asked to have these items on the agenda, but administratively, we will put them on here with the discuss, consider, and act to keep options open. But, so, and I'm not sure the intent was to make a decision tonight or not, or to have discussion, but, it was, when she asked to put it on, I want to talk about these things. We take it to be, we need to have it open because without something real, specific. And so just to clarify that, I don't want you guys to be that.
And the reason why I agreed to that is because I have researched it, and I have been patient, and I have been kind, and I have for myself experienced and seen things that I do not like. And these are not speculations, they're not assumptions. I've seen it. I'm not okay with somebody saying, just pass it, and they'll come sign it later. I'm not okay with that. This is money that should be appropriated correctly. And so I have done my research. I have read the tax code 3 times recently, but I had read it, and yeah, and that's why I was ready, but I respect council's decision to at least look at it and consider. I just feel that Alice deserves to be sold, and I feel that Alice deserves to be marketed. We have a lot to offer. I truly, and it's not just me loving my city. I know we have things to offer, and we should have had a lead into our summer. We have this multi-million-dollar facility.
I've been asking for over a year
Yeah.
for signage. I've been asking, and we did get, I believe, 2 billboards
Right.
ordered
Here recently.
recently. So
People are already getting ready to go back to school.
Then-
So if you appropriate this correctly and you have somebody that just sells Alice, they're going to be on it, and they're going to be advertising us, and they're going to be doing this, and not speaking badly about anybody, but all of you here have said that when one person has many jobs, they're not efficient. And I know all of y'all have said it. So I'm just reiterating and agreeing with y'all that if one person has one job to do and it is funded by this fund, we should use it correctly and use it to sell Alice and use that fund in coordinating with a committee, because obviously we don't want one person being in charge of this fund, but have a committee. So if council would consider that, I think, in my opinion, that would be the optimal thing for our city, to sell our city. We should have been marketing our multi-use center months ago. And that way people made plans. I know there's plenty of space, and I know there's been ridicule about me wanting billboards, but billboards work. They wouldn't be still standing after decades and decades of, they're proven to work. Digital, it might, but I mean, who's going to be standing there watching? A car's not going to stop to watch a digital or stand at an airport to watch. So I know billboards work, and I know social media works. And if we had one person that could solely do this job and coordinate with, because they have done excellent brochures, they are good at that. But who's to say that somebody that has a degree in that wouldn't be better? I just, that's how I feel. I feel that Alice is shortchanged and our citizens are shortchanged by this fund not being used correctly in the sense of promotion of Alice, which is the sole intention of this. When you read the code, that's the one that doesn't have limitations. All the others, we can do 15% for the arts. We can do 19 or 15% is the one for the arts. And that's about all we spend it. That's how we spend it. So I do respect council's decision, so I'll entertain a motion if there's no questions or comments.
When you go ahead.
As far as administratively, if I just need direction as if you want to see a plan where we do administer those, I can certainly come up with that. When we come up with a plan, there's some things to consider. We got to hire a person. We've got to figure out the associations that need to get transferred over. The information center that needs to be had. Phone calls that come in and those kind of there's several things that that would come into play. But if you guys want to see that, I can certainly produce something to show how that'll work, and then you guys can compare that with
And that's,
modifying the contract and, you know, bringing it up to date.
and I think that's, you know, one of the statements that we're obviously saying here is that we'd like to see staff come up with some kind of a, you know, go through, maybe audit, maybe review the compliance and non-compliance that the mayor's bringing forward in regards to the administration of these funds, but also work towards viable solutions, you know, whether it be, you know, accountability or partial or whatever, but work towards a solution that best fits staff in-house, I think is what it, you know, maybe staffing in-house, all portions or parts of, and be able to present something to us that would actually, you know, warrant, you know, actual consideration at the time and say, yes, let's move on that. Because right now, we don't know where we stand. We don't know where we're going to move on this thing. We don't know where we're going to go. But continue what you had started, and maybe approach us with solution or solutions.
From the compliance standpoint, Tina Reyes, our collection and compliance officer, we've talked about having her go and do an audit as well. So she just hadn't gotten there with the team else that we're working on and the budget we're working on. But she is scheduled to go there. I did talk to Juan several times about the audit, and you know, they're thinking that their audits that CVB is every 2 years, but the agreement says every year. The auditor that was going to do it here as of today said, no, I'm going to give it to another auditor. So they're supposed to be getting it done because, you know, we've been asking for a couple of months for it, and it will get done. But in the meantime, we do need to have our person to go and do our audit
And this was
as
my
well.
take on it too. It's almost like we're, you know, we wouldn't break it now because they're obviously paid and it's budgeted and all that good stuff till budget begins. So my goal would be at the beginning of the budget, and then I believe they have 120 days, and Mr. Lemon can, 120 days before. I mean, we would have to give them 120 days to terminate the agreement that we have with them. But like Mr. Crisp has said, we might be able to incorporate, and that was my idea, to have some of them on a committee. My thing is to get one person that is totally in charge of promoting our city, and we'll see it. I know we'll see it. You know, these young people, I do a lot of marketing in my businesses, and if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be in business. I literally, it's the way, it's not going away. We need to be progressive, and we have shown, this council has shown that we are progressive and we're moving in the right direction, and this is just part of the future. I mean, obviously we see screens behind us, which hasn't been done, and little towns smaller than us have this. So we know we're moving technology-wise, and this is just part of it. I just truly feel that this could be done to promote Alice, which is what it's for.
Go ahead.
If we read the service agreement that's in place currently, there's a lot of what you're addressing is in there. We just haven't,
Enforced it.
Hold them accountable.
yeah,
And that's what I'm
followed
saying.
up. And
Yeah.
I think if we go back and there's some reports that should be done, I would like to see a more detailed invoice, other than, you know, a blanket total dollar amount. I would like to see that breakdown. How many hours did you're billing us for that come out of this fund that you spent on advertising, those type of things.
Yeah, and this thing calls for some kind of record keeping like timesheets
Correct.
that are spent. But one thing to remember that, I mean, this has been in place for a very long time. And I think when, they took over, let's see, it was Mike Smith was doing the chamber work, and then it went from Mike to Juan. And so it may have been
No,
going.
it was David after
David.
Mike.
David Villa.
No.
No, David,
Dave Seish.
yes.
Yes.
Yes, sorry. Yes.
With the chamber or the EDC?
It just, Dave Seish was the CVB director. Then when Dave was let go, then Mike Smith took it over. Or it was coordinated through the
Okay.
chamber.
And then
that's
went
where
to
Juan
Juan.
picked it up.
Yeah. So it may be something that was passed on, and this is how we do it, and this is how we do it, and
And we forgot about
Yeah.
this. Mhm.
And you know, the other thing I just want to express, Mike, is that we're not saying this is the end-all, be-all solution. What we're saying is go after it. If it's hold them accountable and hold and make sure that they start complying with everything, and then we start seeing results, so be it. If it's no, we need to make changes. We as a council depend on your guidance, your guidance, your guidance, your guidance, your guidance. you know, we depend upon that because this is your job to be the expert in helping us run our city, to be the expert in helping us run our parks, to be the expert in helping us run our emergency and our fire department. You know, that's not our job. So I ask for you to continue to dig, to find a solution that is what you consider an answer, and then one that says, okay, this might be plan B and this might be plan C, but if it's go over there and have them start filling out reports and getting it done and then bringing it back to us, let's do that. If it's no, that's not the way it can go. We're going to depend on you to actually present to us because that's the best case scenario for us. So.
And I'd like to say that we want to work as a city with our chamber. We want
Yes,
to work
very much
with
so.
EDC.
But the chamber has
All
a
of
big
us-
job. They should
all of
focus
us
on small
working
businesses.
together. All of us.
really should.
Well, they're two different entities.
Absolutely.
Okay, CVB
And
and
chamber.
chamber. That's totally different
Exactly.
under one roof. Now, we have in our contract here where they are going to put flyers, advertising, I mean, just different, when people come in to visit, that's where they're going to go look. And that's where we want to have, what we have to offer
because
as a
they're
city.
together.
The water park, the natatorium, the golf course, you know, all those things.
Yeah, because that is technically the information center.
Right.
The CVB information center there.
But we
Right.
could use those funds to build one. Because that's what it's for. But my concern with this fund is that it is being depleted because it grew due to oil field business, which is not coming back anytime soon. And so I see it depleting in a sense that it's not really going towards actual heads and beds, and I can tell you that for a fact. It's not. And that's supposed to be this fund.
I honestly think that would not be the best use. I think like an event center or something where we could draw people into our city, but not another building to have for information center.
It could be both.
I believe an event center or something that would draw is better use of those funds.
Portion of it is supposed to go towards the Alice Civic Center, which doesn't
We don't
exist.
have one.
So.
So they could be together, a convention with, yeah. And that is really the way this fund should be used, so that we can draw bigger crowds. But I appreciate council's input, and I just feel that we deserve, as a city, to be promoted correctly and use this fund correctly. So I'll entertain a motion at this time if there's no questions.
I think we've allowed directives, so we can continue on without anything right now, right?
Yeah, I mean.
Or revisit.
Yeah, I know what I
We'll
gotta do
revisit
on
it
this,
once.
yeah.
Okay.
Bring up some more plans.
In
So-
regards to, I'm sorry, can I
Sorry.
continue?
Go ahead.
In regards to 7, I've got a couple of ideas. Like we stated before, this ordinance is in the infancy. I don't necessarily want to say that it's due to an incident where things were misappropriated or whatever. It was just handled wrong. You know what I mean? It was a situation where we didn't have a procedure at all. It was a situation where we didn't have any line of sight. It was just get it done. We got emails, we did things, and it wasn't handled properly. Not misappropriated, in my opinion, just handled. And we came up with this solution to give us direction. Now, again, it's an infant. You know, it's going to grow. I think the sample put forward is a good start. I think I've got a couple of ideas on something that might help us additionally. One of the things that I spent a lot of time working with everybody from Mr. Lemon in regards to legal, to the city manager, to Joshua Flores over the last several months, Roland himself, JM, with everybody, trying to figure out the solutions that we put in place in the last meeting where we appropriated the monies for the ball fields. In doing so, you start seeing that we can utilize these monies better, okay? And right now, we kind of have an open door policy, okay? We don't have a limit. Where do we cut our losses? Not losses, because these events for the citizens are great things. Don't get me wrong. It's a great way to spend the money, but where do we say enough is enough? So one of the ideas that I had was to maybe approach this by using the example of the state and the government and treat it like a grant process, where at the beginning of the budget year, if you have an event over the next budget year, you apply. We allocate maybe $50,000, and I say 50.
That's actually in there, Mr. Crisp, in the code.
I
It's actually in
believe
there.
That's how we
And
were supposed to.
Yeah.
in our-
But
So-
they have said you cannot do that, because I've asked to do that, but it is in the code that, exactly what you said. is in the tax code.
Okay, see, and then that's what we incorporate here to say, you apply, and over the course of the year, we can award up to, let's say, $50,000. Cap it at 50. It doesn't have to be all 10, but if you get the grant, you can't go back for the 1,800. Right? And that way, we've limited our exposure. We know that these events have been there, and then staff or whomever would go back, and a committee would say, okay, we need to build a scale that says, oh, you've been here, Hispanic Heritage, 24 years of longevity, then that weighs heavy.
Right.
But, and I'm not saying that's them, but this other event only brings in a few people, that kind of weighs less. So there's things like that that could weigh it out, and we could award it. And I know that we only allocate something like 41,000. Now, we've
I think it's 54.
it's 41 in the budget.
30 events at 1,800.
No. I'm saying in our budget, not in the CVB budget. I'm talking about that we allocate in our hot funds budget for the fiscal year when they come to us.
For the 10.
Yes, for the 10. The reason I say 50 is right now we're only allocating about 41, but if we say you apply here, we can pull 5 events off of the $1,800 and it would make it 50. And then we round it and we limit our exposure so that we don't have 20 people start these new events. Yes, they got a 501(c), but
But they're not following the
Yeah,
ordinance
yeah,
where
so-
it's not a year and it's
yeah,
not 3 years
so
approved.
we kind of just go through, or they did it last year, but it was tiny, and they want to apply now. We weigh it out, we award them, and then, it lets people know we have a grant process in order to get these monies, and we've limited our exposure, and then we take whatever's left over, and in 20 years, we redo the ball fields again, or 15 years, or whatever, because they're still there.
Actually, I feel that the city and things like that should be priority. We're not party planners. The city is not a party planner. We should invest into our city to have something long and standing that we can promote tourism, such as the ball fields, where we invest in something solid, something concrete, a convention center. We invest in something that will, in essence, grow this fund, and not, not anything against them. Like the Galaveras is a perfect example of a true event that does put heads in beds. But a lot of these, I'm sorry, no offense to anybody, but they're just not doing what they're supposed to be, and I know for a fact. So that's just how I feel, and I appreciate y'all's input, and hopefully we can do something. I just see it dwindling, and I'm going, oh my God, this is money that we really, according to the tax code, spend it so that we do continue to grow that fund and not just deplete it. So, okay, Mr. Esparza, so we'll entrust that you'll get us maybe a few scenarios.
Yeah,
I would ask
and-
for a
and
few
bring-
scenarios.
Bring some different options on this as far as grant options, maybe looking at the sample, process that we have here too, and just
I did
bring
like
some,
that.
bring some different options to you guys.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I will do that.
I read it and I thought, well, this is great. So that's very good. Thank you. And if you'll have a ABC scenario,
Yeah.
showing, please, first what I'm requesting, and then different, because I truly feel that we deserve a person to promote Alice. Thank you, council. So I can move on from here, right, Mr. Lemon? We don't
Yes.
have to. Okay.
No actions taken, Mayor, just move on.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 8, consider and act upon approval of city council minutes for the June 12, 2018 city council meeting. Council, any questions or additions or corrections to the minutes? If there is none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Crisp.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion stands as stated. Agenda item number 9, consider and act upon appointments, reappointments, removal, and/or term clarifications of appointments, vacancies, and/or memberships of the City of Alice boards, commissions, and committees.
Mayor, there was one application that we had, so we brought this forward. And right now, we have a position at the library board. This is Daniela Varela, and she was interested in Public Recreation Board, Keep Alice Beautiful Commission, our Parks and Rec activities, which is on our list here, and the library board. So there is a vacancy there. The board hadn't necessarily been active, but it was there. I wanted to bring it up to you guys, see if you wanted to consider an appointment.
council?
I'm just concerned because we just got it today. I honestly know nothing of Miss Daniela. It's hard to say which one she would be a perfect fit in. If she wants to be assigned to an actual board that's inactive versus maybe waiting for another position. I'd like to maybe hold off, me personally, hold off on this item, maybe talk to her and speak to her directly so that we can know where she would be a best fit. I mean, because there are 4 checks here, but we only have 1 opening, and it's
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Just a question.
She's a very nice lady. So.
Oh, you know.
do
Okay.
Do you have input for
yeah,
for him?
come on, because I don't know anything. I don't know anything about her. It's like,
But I
it's-
don't, but this is the first time I see it, so I don't know what she prefers or.
Okay.
See, I kind of
but-
feel like we could
But I
reach
can
out
tell
to
you,
her.
she's a very nice lady
Oh.
and very responsible, and
I feel
she'd be a plus wherever she wants to.
Yeah, I feel comfortable. I feel good about the idea that people actually come in and apply for
Yes,
these.
I'm
That's
excited.
But I want to make sure that we can find the best fit and make sure that, I mean, if we sign her to library and they never meet, what good does it do?
Maybe she could.
Maybe she turns it
spearhead
back active again.
No.
But maybe if you spoke to her, you could reach out to
Was
her
the only one,
and
right, that's
express a
open?
couple things to us so that we can get her.
Yeah, and we highlighted that on here because that's the only one that has a vacancy right now. is
The library? Oh, okay.
And that-
So here again, I'm asking this again, Public Recreation Board and Parks and Recreation Activities. I thought y'all had said that it's the one and the same.
Well, yeah, and I'm not sure why we have parks and recreation activities, because that's not a board, but it's just, this is the form that we've had, and it will get updated.
Okay.
But,
I've heard that too many times today.
yeah, so,
Very good. If we can fix it, because then that would be kind of like.
And Mayor, I know we've been asking for
Yes.
us to have this
Clean.
cleaned up.
Yes.
Organized.
Yes, ma'am.
And become, because a lot of these committees are a support system to our directors.
Right.
To our city.
Right.
To help us improve upon our services to our community. So I would like to see this when we have it presented, that we have something where we can say, yes, you know what, this is we want to keep this, we want to, like council to be able to review it and
Dissolve
Look,
committees that are not being
yes.
That are
used
not
or
being
haven't met in
and make
years.
it more
Yeah.
useful,
Yes,
more.
we've talked about that, more cohesive, like maybe one set of guidelines for our committees. I really don't see the need to have people on committees for decades.
Well, that's
that
the only one
bothers me.
set by charter.
But, so that brings me to the Charter Review Committee that I would like to see added to something here, because we have got to learn from our mistakes of the past. And in this last year, there's been a lot, and they're just old mistakes that were bound to this old charter, and times have changed. And I would like for this council, with my support 100%, to create a charter review committee that could help us with the charter and get things on the ballot in May of 2019. We've got to learn from our mistakes. And to me, this is a time, because I know I brought it up and they were like, there's no time, and there was 6 months. Well, to me, I can build Rome in 6 months. So I didn't like that answer. But so I'm saying it in advance, almost a year, so that we can put those things on a ballot that's not going to cost the citizens extra. So I would like to see a charter review committee that, with council's approval, we could create that.
And even though this form hasn't been updated lately, I urge anybody watching, anybody listening, anybody who reads the paper, if you're concerned about the direction of the charter and the way our city is, it's actually on here. So even though it hasn't been updated, it is right here on the list. Come out, try to get on this committee. Last year, it was a committee of 4. Since those dates, only 1 member is still associated with the city. So there's a lot of vacancy. We need these changes. We were presented 43 changes last time, and that doesn't even include, now that's not to say we're gonna push them all, don't get me wrong, because every one of those is a vote on the ballot. But, we need to go through those. We need to review the things that we dealt with last year in August, September, as far as the charter is concerned, and make these changes. This is something that Michael and I have actually already talked about too. I reached out to the 1 member that was on the committee before. she stated herself that she still wants to be a part of it if we're willing to keep her on there. So she's willing to stay involved, and we need more involvement from the community. So I implore y'all to please come in, sign up for these committees. Yes, we don't have a lot of vacancies, but vacancies do happen. In this particular committee, we have a lot of vacancies
Yes.
and need a lot of help. So please come
And we
out.
really do have a lot of vacancies, because there's so many
I was
boards
gonna
that
say-
are
Inactive.
vacant,
Why should-
vacant, vacant,
yeah.
vacant.
There are
So we really,
vacancies.
really do have
We just
a
don't know
lot.
what committees we're gonna continue.
Yeah,
with.
and when I was just talking about the ones that she had interest in, the only one we have
Okay.
available.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right, there's a lot of
We
vacancies.
do have a lot. That
Yeah.
there's just an empty board that I beg the citizens to be committed and do your part to, help us do a better job. We can't do everything. We need your help. And these boards and committees are an excellent way for you to get involved
Major input.
without being at the
There's a
shooting
committee
line.
that I don't know if the council will consider adding it later on when we organize this, but I don't want, the animal shelter, like a committee for maybe
Pets.
bringing
Absolutely.
ideas and how we can better
I love that idea.
improve that facility
I love that idea.
through volunteers.
Definitely worth consideration.
Definitely, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, council, if there's no other additions to this agenda item? So no action taken?
You're gonna reach out to her for us.
Yes, I'll,
Okay.
Okay.
reach
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Agenda item number 10. Here's status report on May 2018 month-ending financial statements and summary of funds. Mr. Rowland. Hi, Mr. Rowland.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Waiting on
Hello,
Jim. At the point.
Are we gonna try something new or?
That's okay.
Not yet. Oh, okay.
Wow.
These aren't ready yet, but they're working on these. There were screens downstairs and up here.
Nice.
Where's that monster downstairs gonna go?
On that one right there.
Okay.
On the bottom.
Where at?
Like right there, there's already
Oh.
what is it called?
Oh, that, right up
An
there.
outlet or?
Amount.
Very good.
You observe it.
Okay. Financials for the month ending May 31st, 2018. We'll start with general fund revenues. At the end of May, we should be about 66.64%, which is almost 67%. And general fund revenues are $8,089,786 year-to-date, which is about 69.43%. So they're about 3% above where we should be at this time. So that's a good thing. We'll start with property tax. Year-to-date budget is $1,816,328. Try to turn on this pointer. Oh, there it is. And year-to-date actual is 2.6 million, or 2,660,461. I did a comparison with 2016, 17, and 18. This is through May. And even though 2018 is a little bit less than 2017, our tax levy was a little bit less than 18 than it was in 17. But as far as collections, we're about 92% in 18, whereas in 2017 at this time, we're about 90%. So we're a little bit better off collections-wise in 18 as opposed to 17. Sales tax, year-to-date, $3,520,000 through May. Year-to-date actual is $3,119,000, which is through March only. This figure right here in green, which is year-to-date through March, is $3,119,014, which is the one year-to-date. The one in orange is also budgeted through March, which is $2,640,000. So what does that mean? Basically, we're $479,000 in the positive from March, actuals to March budget. So that's another positive.
What's
Exhibit
that
C-
number again? 400?
479,000 from March actual to March budget, and the positive. This is fiscal year 2018 budget versus actual sales tax through April, which is not in the financials because this is through March. This is our latest through April. Our fiscal year budget, 2018 budget was $3,080,000, where our actual was $3,600,429. So on that one, we're actually $520,429 in the positive. Exhibit D shows sales tax collection. This is 2018 actual versus 2017 actual through April. So we're at $3,600,429, and 2017 was almost $3 million. So on that one, we're actually almost $609,000 in the positive from 2018 as opposed to 2017. Occupational mixed beverage tax, we're about 54%. Franchise licenses and permits was about 53% of the budget. And those two, of course, are quarterly, so we haven't collected the third part of that. Intergovernmental, we're about 52%. Charges for services, almost 44%. Fines and forfeitures, we continue to do good there. We're at 80% of the budget on that one. Miscellaneous revenues, we're almost 71%, and interfund transfers was 66.60%. So in summary, property tax, sales tax, and fines and forfeitures are all above budget. General fund expenditures, $7,460,094 year-to-date through May. And that actually is 64%. So whereas the revenues were 3% above, the expenditures are actually almost 3% below, so that's a good thing. Just going to highlight a few of the areas. General service is under budget. Finance administration is under budget. Fire department's a little over 1%, almost 1% above where it should be. It's not too bad. Police department's actually 3% below budget, which is a good thing. Street maintenance is almost 3% above. Garages under, parks and playgrounds is under budget, and the library are the main ones. Then we have our revenues versus expenditures for all the major funds. General fund, we're $629,693. Solid waste, $134,467. The revenues over expenditures. Utility fund is in the negative $431,130. I'm going to start evaluating the utility fund a little bit closer as far as revenues and what we budgeted as opposed to what we collected now, and we're moving forward. We're working on our revised budget, so I want to make sure that those are really in line on what they should be. And then some of the expenditures on that end too. So we'll be looking at it a little bit closer now that we're in the revised portion of it. The airport, $10,992 in the positive. Golf course, $10,877. And last month we were in the negative 16,000, so it's gotten a little bit better in the golf course fund. Hotel occupancy was 5,326. Multi-use complex is now in the negative 19,841, which is an improvement from last month. Last month we were at 54,000, almost 55, so that's almost a $35,000 turnaround. So overall, they're all doing fairly well with the exception of the utility, which we'll take a closer look at. Is there any question?
How much are we transferring out of utility fund right now to general fund?
$1,435,000.
And that plays into the expenses of that fund, correct?
Yes. Yeah, and then there's the debt service portion of it. Any other questions?
Council,
I
any
have-
questions?
On the property tax, do you have a breakdown, like maybe how much of that on the collections was like back tax? Not like, how do I say, like old taxes that were owed and are now collected?
Yes, we do. I don't have it with me, but I can get it to you. Yeah,
Okay.
we have what's a delinquent, what's
The
collected from
delinquent taxes, I couldn't
delinquent.
think of the word.
And penalties and interest and so forth. I can get you that. For 2018 only? or-
Yes.
And actually, let me see. Yeah, no, it's not. No, I'll get that for you. I can get you that breakdown.
I also have a question. I know during our budget workshops, we had said we were gonna look into the natural gas, the bill that we're paying on different buildings or departments, that we were gonna try to close some of those because
We
we
have.
didn't have, do you know,
did.
because I saw some of the bills were for natural gas or what we paid.
Yes, ma'am.
And there was, the reason on the utility, bill, was there a one-time, expense, let's see, I'm trying to remember, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Anyhow, I saw the reason for it, but I would, just wanted an update on like maybe the natural gas, if we had looked into that since
We
our
did.
workshops and.
Yes, we did, and as a matter of fact, we closed several. Some that we shouldn't even have either, and we found out the hard way that that one needed to be turned back on, but we did look into it.
Oh, okay.
And the same thing with the electric meters.
Okay.
We did the same.
Well, good. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yeah, since we're on the hot funds, going to page 87, it just shows tax fund expenditures, other professional. And it's a variance of 77,317. Did you just have no idea? Like what that is, or we just get a number from them?
This isn't from them, though.
Or how does that number get there? Like if it's ours, like how did we spend year-to-date 144,683?
The variance is
27?
your budget versus your actual,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
and that's the difference.
But it's showing that we spent year-to-date 144,683. Is that accurate? For
Yes, ma'am.
2018? And that includes everything, right?
Right.
Okay.
So, but I think what you might be asking is can we get a little bit more detail there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
a
it's
little bit
like-
more
Like,
detail.
what is it?
Oh, yeah, we can get your detail.
Like
Yeah.
the 13,000 times 5 will be a line item of itself.
something,
Because
yeah.
that comes out of here, correct?
Right.
So you still,
Yes.
and then how much of it is for whatever, because next year,
Yeah.
we're trying to work on a couple of these
Fixing-
items
Yeah.
that are gonna be budgeted out, larger numbers
Mm-hmm.
in order to try to move this, and we're gonna wanna see it broken down. So maybe if you can start moving towards that process now, we'd appreciate it.
Year-to-date detail on what we
Yeah, I mean, for now,
expensed.
so that we can, because it's a big, and we seem to do it, I mean, they're all kind of like that, but if we could, just for now, so that we're doing the research, if you would
Sure.
email that to me,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
Sure, I'll get that to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Council, any other questions?
It'd be 13,000 times 5.
It's
So out of
thir-
that.
It's
13,330.
333.
Yeah, so out of that 144,000, that's year-to-date of expenditures, 66 of it is CVB outage. I guess what we're asking is, what has that
The
other
difference.
80,000
it?
been spent on?
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Because I know we haven't even started the field process, right?
The field process?
Uh-huh, like doing the field work using these funds?
Just a portion.
Oh,
of
no,
it.
no, there's been, yeah, no,
So
we
isn't that kind
haven't.
of weird? Like, why is it?
Well, but there were some
Donation.
expenditures.
There was a few, but I don't think it's on this one.
Okay.
This is through May.
Just what'd you say? It's about 80?
Oh, no,
Take a look
I'm
at the
actually, I apologize. My multiplication is wrong. So 13,300, you've got October, November, December.
This is through May.
We still
Yeah,
have them.
so it's 8 months.
8 months.
Not 8 months, times 8, sorry.
So what's a missing number?
Times 8, I apologize for that. So 106 of it, so 28 of it is in-house usage. And part of that has been, I think we've issued out maybe 3 events at the 8,200 since, for this calendar year. So there's almost 24 of it alone, so.
And salaries would be in there and all of that, right?
No, I don't think we cover any salaries.
No, that'll
Salaries, you
be,
mean from what we're paying out of the chamber?
right.
The
That
chamber
comes
comes
out
out
of
of that
the 13.
106.
Yeah,
That's part of
Yeah.
this, that's part of that
ready
13.
in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okey dokey. Council, any additional questions?
I think, were you done?
And the difference might also be like what you said, it's the difference between what we budgeted and what we actually, because there's a deficit on what we, revenues, I don't know how to explain.
Yes, I-
But the budgeted amount
Yes.
versus what we actually
Right.
brought in.
But I was asking what Pete clarified was, what is it? I want to know what it is.
Where did we hit the other 24? So, I'd like to see a
Yes,
line
we
item,
can
like you're
get
saying, that says the grants,
Yeah.
event grants or whatever, and then have that at the 82 or whatever times.
We can,
you know.
well, I'll get you a detail.
Yes.
We
year to
would like
date.
to make it right. Like, when we go into this and dive in it, I really
Well,
want to do the right thing.
Especially with some of the ideas that we're bouncing around for next year, where we're gonna have to allocate funds for
Yeah.
different types of things that we want to go on. We're gonna have to be able to break that down.
Yeah,
Yes,
very
Please.
specifically.
no problem, yeah. I'll
Thank
get-
you.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Roland.
I have
you
one
very-
question, Roland.
Yes, sir.
Page 77, over on the right-hand side of the graph, that interfund transfers.
Okay, enough fun.
I'm sorry, I know you're all booked up and ready to go, but
No, that's okay. Is it under, I don't have my book with
General
me.
fund
Is it
expenditures.
the revenues or expenditures?
I'm sorry.
Expenditures?
Yeah, expenditure versus budget by department.
Okay,
I think you can go back one slide and you'll be seeing what he's talking about,
oh, yeah.
right there.
Yeah, that one. The far left, interfund transfers, what's that? What's going on there? Or,
Let me get, hold on, I have,
I mean, I understand the fire department, street maintenance, but I'm just kind of curious.
Like, what it is?
the general fund will transfer to, like, for instance, the airport
Uh-huh.
and the golf course.
Right, but what I'm saying is like, are we that far off right now or no?
Our budget was less than what we transferred so far.
Right.
Does that also fall into the category of vacancies?
Yes, you know what, that, you're right, it's the benefits trust.
Yeah. I still,
And there's,
Because of insurance,
wanna
because
see
we're
that.
yeah,
self-insured?
we kind of, and I hope I can explain this correctly, but it's, we budget a certain amount, and when you have vacancies, those positions are still, for insurance purposes, are still budget, so you still allocate that portion of it. So in some cases, we transfer a certain percent for the bit to cover the benefits trust. And in this case, probably through May 31st, we're a little bit over budget. But it's related to the benefits trust fund account.
And that funding would normally come from, correct me if I'm wrong, but would normally come from the employees when they pay for their insurance.
Yes.
Right, like the deduction from the insurance. But when there's no employee payroll, now it just comes out of the general fund.
Right, and you still have to account for it and allocate for it.
Okay. So that's a lot of what that is.
Yeah, and
I wonder if we can,
Look funny.
Well, and that's a
Remove
practice that
that.
Councilman Canasco had talked about several times, and we've had those discussions now. And the insurance part will come up here in probably a few meetings, but we don't necessarily have to do that now. We have enough reserves where if somebody comes in, you still should be okay. This is now, but remember that money though is not like going away because it's still in the benefits trust fund for the use of the insurance of
Medical.
health benefits for employees. But it is it's going there and it's just building those reserves. But we don't necessarily have to do that for those employees now. We have to see the contract as they come in from our stop loss carrier or third-party administrator to make sure that we can change that. But we are going into a new plan year, so that was on my list to look at because I know there were some concerns about that. And I think we're sitting healthy enough in that fund that we don't have to do that. If you're just starting off partially self-funded, yeah, you probably would want to get that money, because if you fill that position, at the month one, you're not, or fill, you don't have that funding. So it's your first year you go into partially self-funded, you want to do that. But later on, if you have a healthy fund balance, probably don't necessarily have to.
We don't have to transfer as much. You're correct, because it's a healthy fund balance in that one. That's something we usually talk about in the budget.
Yeah.
They talked about how healthy our fund budget was this last audit season. Budget season. So
Correct.
again, yeah.
And that
That's
helps
what-
our,
It's kind of crazy the way that works, but it's a
it
little
helps
bit.
it'll help when we do the renewal for the health insurance.
Right.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Molina.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
All
Roland.
right, thank you, Roland. Okay, agenda item number 11. Consider and act upon authorizing city manager to purchase a commercial vacuum truck from Rush Truck Center at a purchase price of $170,689.47 and authorize the city manager to execute a contract and related documents.
Mayor, this is the same item that was a few meetings ago. The same truck, it's ready to go. When this truck is eligible for reimbursement, and we did a reimbursement resolution. It is eligible for reimbursement under the Texas Water Development Board loan. Barbara and I had talked, and Barbara, you feel comfortable that we should get that loan. I mean, we hadn't been awarded. There's not a list, but from your experience, do you want to?
Based upon our experience, and we have not received any emails or phone calls about the project information form that we submitted for this project. And so based upon prior experience with Texas Water Development Board, the meeting we had with Team 6 last year about this project, we feel confident that we'll be invited to apply for a loan. Next month, Texas Water Development Board will publish a draft intended use plan where they list all the projects that were submitted and they rank them. So we'll be able to view that document and see how the project ranked and be able to estimate when we might be invited to apply. And when that draft intended use plan is posted, we'll let the city manager know so he can inform you, so you can get on the website and look at it. And it's in draft form for public comment. And then once Texas Water Development Board receives public comment, they respond to those comments, and they then publish a final intended use plan and take it to their board in August for adoption. And then once that intended use plan is adopted, then the board starts to send out invitations to apply for financial assistance.
Question on that, in regards to the comments, it's open for public comment. Is this something that maybe as a council, we should go out there and comment and advocate for it, or is it for different purposes? You said it's open for public comment.
It's open for public comment, so we can look at how we're evaluated and decide at that point if you want to submit a comment. I think it's appropriate.
Okay.
I will double check.
I'll be
but
happy to
it's-
swing by, and maybe it's not a comment for myself, but just to review it with you.
Sure.
And see if council, the staff, or whatever, and the mayor would like to maybe advocate for it even more so if deemed necessary, so.
Okay. And I'll be sure and let the city manager know, and as soon as it's posted.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
so,
you.
So Ms. Barbara, invited to
To
apply.
apply. They send a letter to you and/or the city manager saying that, and with the project information form number, that it's been reviewed, evaluated, and they extend the invitation to submit a financial
So,
assistance
Can you
application.
tell us how long this process is?
we will, based upon our experience in putting together a loan application, because it involves our financial advisor, bond counsel, plus city staff, that's probably 30 to 60 days. And we get it submitted to Texas Water Development Board. They act pretty quickly. The Attorney General's office takes 30 days to do its part of the review. So once Texas Water Development Board gets it, estimated about 90 days, then we would know that they're going to take it to their board for approval. And we have, during that process, you set up a timeline for closing on the loan too. So I'm estimating that by May of 2019, we'll know if the application has been approved. And
To just know if it's been approved.
Yes,
So the
ma'am.
funds will not be returned, but we'll just know if it's been approved.
well, and
So we'll still be out a year from now.
We started the process last year for funding that doesn't show up until summer of next year.
Yeah, that one's.
But if we don't get the ball rolling, so.
Right.
And I think I know where the mayor's going with this. I'll let you finish, but.
Thank you.
But I
I've been
think.
reading my notes.
Yeah, no, because I have questions in regards to how much we're actually spending
Go
right
ahead,
now.
Mr. Crisp, I'll let you
To year to date, we spent $64,000 in vacuum truck services.
64,000.
64,000.
And this is a fiscal year or calendar year?
This is, rolling, this is from two,
Actually, that's just from February to May.
February to May.
Was that rental or?
February.
To May. 64K?
right.
Okay.
We pay it off in 9 months. Reimburse ourselves. Because that's money going out with no asset.
And it's not, our issue with the wastewater is not getting any better. It's actually getting worse. And, I mean, this is what, Victor Sines and Joe Sines are here. I mean, we're dealing with this every day. There's a place where we need to start pumping. I had a meeting with Jose Pineda today about our issues with our wastewater. You know, it's the lifespan of a lot of our lines. It's happening now. It's when they're disintegrating. And so I wanted to see if there's something that from their office they can do to help us with some kind of loans or something like that for sewer line repair. You know, it's every day. It's constant, and we're having to pump every day.
Right.
Yeah.
You have any other?
I was just saying, and who operates that piece of equipment that we currently utilize?
Well, right now, we have one vacuum and a jet vac, and guys, correct me here, it's a jet vac, so it actually cleans out lines and vacuums as well. That's a small machine. But right now, what we do is we're leasing, renting every day, almost every day, probably.
But we use our
But our
vac
employee
and
isn't.
jet vac?
No, that's a contract
It's
we
just a
use.
total contract
Yeah.
here.
Here, we would have an employee that would operate this.
And we do have someone, correct? that
Joe, we have
is
somebody that would be able to.
licensed.
Yeah, and this truck, you know, ideally, we'd probably want the tractor trailer setup, a 18-wheeler setup, but, you know, that takes a Class A. It also was not able to get around some of the places we need to get around, and so probably for us, we need a big one too, than just this one. This one has a 4,000-gallon tank, so it's a pretty big tank for the size of truck. But if I'm not mistaken, the larger ones may have like 6,000 gallons.
75, is correct, 7,500 gallons? What are we because aren't we currently using a vacuum trailer setup that carries?
Truck, the 18-wheeler has up to 5,500 gallons. That's
5,500.
the biggest 18-wheeler you can get.
Okay.
But in areas where we have to get in alleys, where we have to back up the trailer, we're not going to be able to do that with an 18-wheeler.
Right.
And when we're getting all this rain and stuff like that, there's absolutely no way we can get relief to residents. So we need like a tandem with the most amount of gallons, so we can be able to get in there and get out and give them temporary relief while we go do a repair.
Right.
And this is, this truck is already ready for service. You hop in
Yes,
it,
it's
it's
ready,
ready to
ready.
go. It's
Yes.
a bobtail truck tanker.
Yes.
And the FET tax is included or not included, or we're exempt?
Yeah,
that's the total price on it.
Yeah,
That's out the door?
yeah.
Because that will make a difference. I would like to make sure.
Yeah, because, I mean, I think I know where all this is coming from.
Yeah.
At $64,000 a quarter.
Oh, I get
That's
it.
$220-something thousand. Even if we buy the truck, we're still left over 1 year. We're left with $82,000 to pay somebody to operate it.
Yeah, we're good.
You know what I mean? So, and with the chance of reimbursement, we have an asset for the city. I think, you know, I hate to ever dig in reserves, but, I mean, it's kind of one of those deals where we need it, we utilize it regularly, and
Every
it's
day.
just money going out the door.
Right.
It's just
We
money
have
going out.
some right now, right?
I'm just kind of concerned because we only have one, and French Ellison does the same. Did we go to French Ellison as well?
We did look at other companies, but we went with this one because this is available now. Some of the companies had it, you had to wait 6 months' time, and according to Joe, we needed relief now, not 6 months from now.
I'm just
It's
concerned that we
through
could.
the buy board also.
Right, French Ellison is also on the buy board, and I'm just concerned that because we are removing from the reserves, that if we could get a better deal. Like, that's my concern. If we could get, I mean, 20,000 is 20,000 that we could.
Well, for the truck, and these are buy board prices, so if this was spec'd out exactly, it should be the same. Now,
But we don't have anything to compare to.
yeah, I mean,
And that's
we
my
would have
concern.
some different options. You know, I guess you could have different options, and I'm not the expert in trucks, but transmissions certainly are different. You know, the axle weights would be different maybe, you know, things like that. So there'd be different options, but spec'd out how this is, that's the buy board price, and I don't see any tax on it, just,
Yeah, that's not on there, and that's why I'm curious if we are exempt.
well, and we should be, because, yeah, this is the price. There's not any taxes on there.
That could be in the.
Well, I don't think they can't tax us. We're a municipality, so, yeah, we're exempt, so.
I think my only hesitation is when you buy a purchase this big, it's the size of a house, you shop. And I'd like to see, I mean, I know the need, and I know that it's a big need for us. And I completely understand the money and all of that. I do like that we're supporting small businesses in town, right? This company is in town, I hope.
No, there is
It's out of
nobody
town?
that sells, there's nobody that sells
They
vacuum
used to
trucks
be
in
here
town.
in town.
Yeah,
We
but
did have a spot over here, right?
they're in Cal Allen, I think, aren't they?
Okay.
So, yeah, but there's nobody that sells vacuum trucks local unless you
No,
wanna
no,
buy
no, no,
yours.
not sales, the service.
Oh,
The service.
Oh, okay, continued
The
service.
service is not coming from town?
they closed their
Whoever's
service
doing
shop
the
here in town.
service?
Right, they closed it.
They closed
Conchos
it.
doesn't do this anymore?
No, not Roach, they moved out about 6 months ago.
Okay. That's just my concern. I mean, when you're buying a house, and I know Cynthia does this every day, and people look at how many houses before they spend 170,000. That's my only concern. I would have liked to have had a comp of other people on our buy board so that we could compare, and we could be a little threatening to say we're shopping.
Well, but that's, I mean, to go with the buy board they've already spec'd out these specs, the specs on what's gonna be here. And this is the one, I mean, we can vary, the price can vary by the specs that we're gonna have, but this one was ready to go. And some of the other ones I know, and I forget the one that we talked to, was it in Kingsville? There was another,
And this is a different truck. You don't find a lot of trucks that are automatics. It's an automatic truck. It's easier for our guys. You have to have a Class B instead of a Class A.
You're right.
And it's a unique truck. And the reason we went, because that was the only place that had it to go.
Right.
I mean, it was ready, I mean, it
and
was
and it's on buy board, and that's
buy
why.
board.
And you can't, we can't go in and say, hey, we're looking somewhere else and they're gonna change the price, right? The buy board says, hey, your price is $170,689.47 if you want this product. That's where it's at, so. I think, and I mean,
Is that a correct statement? Is that a correct statement?
they don't adjust the price from the buy board.
it's set.
When the buy, what they do is they bid
Right.
the contract already, so.
Already?
Basically, you're getting the best amount for that item because they've already bid it, and they're usually like a 2-year contracts. So the state does it for you, in essence, that's kind of what he's
So you can't go back to Rushing and say, come on, because this is already as good as it gets.
This is the bid.
This
But
is it.
I'm just wondering, like, what other bids we got or what? You know, we only have one comparison. But, I mean, that's just how I shop. That's how I do business. I don't take the first. So, that's just my concern. I was just, I was concerned about the gallons, the amount, you know, going to a smaller truck when we've used a bigger truck and transportation. But Mr. Esparza has informed me that y'all are able to use the manholes, whereas the rentals cannot. So that would alleviate that dump, you know, having to travel to dump. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you guys to make sure. Joe, can the rental company dump in a manhole, or they have to take it in?
They
and
have,
dispose?
sometimes they have to pay to dump somewhere.
Right.
A lot of times, depending on the solids, on the liquids, we allow them to go to a trunk line and dump them or not. We have to take it to the wastewater plant. If it's got a lot of solids, we have to take it to the wastewater plant.
Okay,
Because
so we
it's our
determine-
sewer.
So they are able to use our
Yes,
line, okay.
yes.
But we still get charged the same as if they're gonna dump
Well,
there, or
they
they're
have,
gonna go pay?
after the service is done, they have to clean it themselves, so they charge about $100. Some people charge $100 clean out fee,
Right.
depending on the company.
So how would we clean ours? You guys would,
We just wash it and clean it.
Yeah, and then you're only paying an hour of, not even an hour of clean rate.
so then that takes us
And we
to.
won't have to clean it every day. I mean, it would be used, we're gonna be using it
On
every
the
day.
the same line. I mean, they're cleaning it, it's going from customer to customer.
Yes.
Yeah, so they have to, absolutely.
And this truck also is gonna be used at the landfill to haul,
Leachate.
leachate from, the landfill to the sewer plant.
It's gonna be used as a temporary relief to the customer because sometimes it's gonna take 2 or 3 days to do a sewer repair, and people want something relieved quick.
Sure, absolutely.
They don't wanna wait.
Right.
And it also assists you in the repair, correct?
Exactly,
Because when
exactly.
you dig that hole and it's full of water, this is the piece of equipment that
Exactly.
you'll
Yes.
dig to use
It's a
to
quick
get in there.
relief, yes.
Yeah, so,
Wastewater.
yeah.
And we have a plan for the driver, like, are we, because I know we're short-staffed all the way around. Are we gonna have?
Yeah, we have a plan.
Because right now we have a
We
person
have
that
an
comes.
experienced, vacuum truck driver in Public Works.
Mm-hmm.
We're just gonna train some of the guys from Joe's. So we've done, I mean, we have an experienced guy.
Because I know the brush pickup takes forever because we're shorthanded.
Well, this guy works the streets.
Just saying.
All right.
I have a pal a year old. But anyway, no, it's just a concern, like, are we gonna get this truck and then it just sits there and because we don't have
gosh, no.
manpower and
Well,
it's.
it's not gonna sit there. We have so much work. I mean,
after-
everybody's gonna be asking for it
This
as soon
is a
as we.
Band-Aid, this is a Band-Aid solution to our big problem. And
Right.
that's why I'm not comfortable,
Well,
because it
but-
is a Band-Aid.
Well, but we're always gonna be, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see us ever finishing, it'll be a long time for finishing all the wastewater lines, sewer lines that we have to fix, so it's constantly gonna be used. Right now, we're using it to relieve some of the lines that are collapsed, but as we go repair them, it's gonna be part of our daily work.
It's more along the lines, in my opinion, it's more along the lines of long-term triage, because this is the kind of thing that we're gonna be using forever and ever as soon as an emergency hits us, making Class A. So any one of these trained individuals doesn't need a specialized license, can jump in this thing. No, it comes on Class B, you said, right?
Class
Class
B.
B can jump in there and move on this thing, so I mean,
90% probably of our drivers should have a Class B license.
good deal.
So it sucks up, what?
Sewer,
Anything.
wastewater.
Anything
What
wet,
does it, I mean, does it?
it can suck
like
up the mud and
just
everything.
clean water, or it's
No.
poop?
Yeah.
It's-
Sewage.
It's just sewage. So like, we couldn't use it any other way, just.
No, we can use it to suck up rainwater and standing
That's what I'm
water.
curious, like, in
Yeah.
situations where we're in a bind, could we use that truck?
We can use it as a water truck.
Yeah, okay.
After it gets cleaned.
After it's,
I
yeah.
know. You
Very
can go to
much so
Pete's
after
house
it
gets
and
dis-
work on his
disinfected and we can
water.
use it as a
Don't be
water
filling
truck,
up
yeah.
anybody's pools.
Okay, so I mean, if we needed, like, times like this, it is a thought. Like, could we use this truck in a situation where we are in a bad situation with flooding? I mean, it's something to think about, that we don't just have a machine that just does poop.
It could be utilized at the ball fields if need be, and other places like that where standing water exists and we have events and need to move things around. This can be a great effort. I mean, I honestly at one point had told somebody, I said, truthfully, we can buy some of this, maybe even buy this piece of equipment in coordinates with hot funds because we're utilizing it in order to improve the ball fields later.
Stop.
But that would be too much of a stretch, so we decided against it.
I'm not even listening.
But I think that our needs.
Too much of a
wise,
stretch.
We probably do need a tractor trailer set up
Yeah.
as well, long term. This is something that allows us to do a lot of alleyways. We can do a lot of things with this one, and it's going to be used all the time. But as we move to continually repair the wastewater lines we have, there definitely is going to be a need for a second one. I mean,
Yeah.
this is every day.
Every day.
Yeah. Victor and Mr. Science, I appreciate all you do. I mean, really, I call y'all and citizens are upset or complain about something, you're on it right away. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate the work that y'all did with the on Third and Walnut and back of the Craig Street and all those. So yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you for what you do.
All right, guys. Sorry, just had to answer that question. All right, I'll entertain a motion at this time, council.
Mayor, make a motion to authorize city manager to purchase a commercial vacuum truck from Rush Trucking Center at a purchase price of $170,689.47 and authorize the city manager to execute a contract and related documents.
I say.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Okay, motion stands as stated. Thank you, Mr. Kuss and Ms. Carrasco. Okay, agenda item number 12, adjourn and/or consider and act upon adjournment. I'll entertain a motion at this time to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Okay, this meeting is now adjourned. The time is 8:26. Thank you, everybody, for being here and everyone at home. Fabulous evening.